In this live coding session, we start by reorganizing our Xcode project into folders and not into groups and see what that's like, and especially moving tests closer to the code that's under test. That's an interesting thing you'll see. And we start doing test-driven development, not of SwiftUI, but of a domain model, the very, very first test. And even on the first test, it's important not to move too fast, but to take a critical look at what are we making and how expressive is it. Welcome back for another round of live coding working in SwiftUI using test-driven development. I am your host, John Reed. Good to have you, and welcome to the folks who are already here, especially Mud Shark, who is always the first to say hello, just to let me know he's still alive. Hey, Garbob, welcome others. Say hi in the chat if you get a chance. Coder Tricks. Greetings and welcome. We are at a point in our project. We are working on the game of Mastermind. If you're not familiar with it, it's a fun secret guessing game, code guessing. Welcome, Jonas. Is it a hard J or a soft J? Sokas. So in Mastermind, we're blocking out our work using this discovery tree, but there's also these other things that I jotted down as ideas, things I wanted to explore. There are certain things that are just part of how I work. Discovery trees. I like using Arlo's commit notation. Story slicing and evolutionary design have been a big part of this, and we'll do more of that today. What else? Refactoring in Xcode. TDD as if you meant it. Haven't really done that. Maybe that's something we'll get to do today. Micro objects. We've started to shift some things to get away from getters and setters, and we'll do more of that. I don't think we've done any nullables in this project. I certainly have done a lot of nullables in my Objective-C to SwiftUI conversion to get away from using mocks. And here's another one, avoiding setup and teardown. I've got decades, I'm old, of using setup and teardown, but there are people who advocate for not doing that. So that's actually something I wanted to look at. I looked for setup, and there are two places in our code right now, two test suites that use setup and teardown. One is like this one, but what's it setting up? It is just preparing these things. It is not preparing the system under test. So, if these were humongous, if these were monstrous objects, it would make sense to keep them like this, so that you only get one instance, one test suite alive at a time. But since they're so small, one thing we could do is just change these to let's and just assign them. Kind of like that. What? What's it complaining about? Hey, Eric. Good to have you. I have no idea what it's yelling about. Oh, that's what it's yelling about. Thank you. So, disadvantage of this is that for in XC test, unlike in Swift testing, for every single test case, of which there are 1, 2, 3, 4 in here so far, it will create an instance of secret tests. The reason it's called, this has confused people for a long time. The reason is this is called a test case is because each instance is a test case. So there's a test case for this, and a test case for this, and a test case for this, and they're all instantiated before any of them are run. Swift testing is different. But, you know, for the price, let's lean into it. Let's get away from setup and teardown and try to stay away from it as an experiment to try to learn. So a little bit of cleanup here before we get rolling. Okay, this is avoid setup. Next, same thing. In fact, it's the same type, code choice. Let's do the same thing here. Like that. There we go. And this should also still be fine. You know, it's a little cleaner. I wouldn't do this for everything. Push these. All right. Back to the main show. So that was just a reminder to myself. The reason I put this in here. What are we doing? We have done a lot of stuff. We have been working on play game with secret length of 2, and now there's this question. There's the sheet that comes up, and in iOS 18, apparently you can't dismiss the sheet. Oh, the key bindings. You mean like these? So I forget. It was one of you who turned me onto this. It is called Keycaster, and I really recommend, because Xcode doesn't have anything like it built in. When you're doing teaming, coding together as a team or ensemble programming, and you're working in a situation where you're rotating machines to reduce lag, get Keycaster in there so that folks can see what your shortcuts are. And that is thanks to one of you who suggested it. I forget, was it Garbob? One of the joyous things of ensemble programming. So this sheet here, let's run the app. The app is, we have the secret code. We have two colors. What's it going to be? Is it going to be black and then brown? And there's the sheet. The sheet was a temporary thing. It's not part of the game. I mean, I suppose a final you win or you lose will be, but not like that. The key thing of Mastermind, and it's funny that we've gone this long without even approaching it, is the feedback thing. So if I go like this and, the check button, that's another thing we need to add. And there we go. I have one color, one peg in the right place, one key, one code. I don't know what you call a part of a code, in the right place and 3 in the wrong place. And that's the nature of the game. It is really the heart of the game. Normally, it's kind of funny. So I've used Mastermind to teach test-driven development. I know. Mudshark's favorite thing, the check button. And the feedback, right? Both of those things. Yeah. And the which one are you targeting? I know. I've used Mastermind as the tool, as a kata to teach test-driven development. And it's not about the UI at all, right? Because you don't want to do that in a short workshop. But it is about, given a secret key and given a guess, what is the feedback? And showing that, saying, how many matches and how many in the wrong position. That is something you can do with TDD. And maybe like you don't get a final you win or you lose until you've done all the rounds. What to do? Okay, so we've got a few things. The sheet is in place of the final round, but we want to expand to multiple rounds. Let me keep going here for a second. I'm just going to lose. I want to see what it says. Here we go. What's it going to do? It's going to show an alert. It also shows under here the correct code. That's part of the game. Is in the physical version, you've got the pegs and you hide the code master hides the secret behind a little wall, and then you flip it down. Or what to do? We could take that off the plate, or we can defer it, or we can say, that we'll leave it there. But it seems important that we get our, that was an interesting animation I wasn't expecting, of all the pieces tumbling down. The feedback is key. The check button is key. The reason the check button is there is to let you evaluate your guess and say, no, let me like put the black here, and I guess it was already targeted. Actually, let's make them both black, right? And figure things out before you say, that's my guess. So, what direction to go? I think that this is, I'm going to make this a note. And play secret game with secret length of 2 is done. But what's the next thing? Pressing a slot might tell da da da. So that's the slot. We've got the verify button. And we have the feedback. Feels like the feedback ought to be next. I don't know. Mudshark. I know this has been bothering you for a long time. Which way? What do you think? And other folks, which way shall we go? The key difference between TDD and I think how most feedback, most programmers work in companies, and I know I've been guilty of this myself, is the company says, look, we've got a designer. The designer has mocked up everything. Here's how it's supposed to look. And so the first thing you do is like you get the UI to look right. And then you have a bunch of stuff basically that doesn't do anything. And I really wanted to experiment with focusing only on deliverable results. So feedback. To do the feedback, we could do classic. Okay, let's get it in the board here. So this is going to be what's it called? The key? When in doubt, let's see if we can. Here's what the old game looked like back in the day. Decoding board, a shield, code pegs, key pegs. There's feedback. Colored key peg is placed for each code peg from the guess, which is correct in both color and position. White key peg. Okay, so it looks like feedback is the right domain term. Let's go with it. What are we going to do with feedback? First, let me set up the... oh, it's getting kind of wide here, and it might be time to split it into multiple boards. I don't know. What do we need to do on feedback? One is we need to calculate it, and the other is we need to show it. Anything else? Another thing about discovery trees that I really like is it is essentially just-in-time design. You could key pegs. Yeah. Each single peg. That makes sense. I think I called it a code choice. We'll see. We'll see about the domain. That seems like a decent thing to try, in which case we are ready to do classic TDD, apart from UI, if we go in this order, by saying, let's work on the calculation. Basically, instead of driving it from the UI, let's set up the model because we know how that's supposed to work. It's not like, a deep mystery of something that we need to get in feedback about. The rules are set. So, classic TDD. Let's do the feedback. Where's that going to go? And how are we in terms of organization? We have more and more files here, more and more objects. And it's starting to feel a little unwieldy. What do we have? We have basically some domain. It could just be two integers, one for the number of correct guesses and one for the number of misplaced colors. Yes. Something like that. We kind of have UI stuff and domain stuff mixed up here. I think it might be helpful to rearrange this. Oh, you know what might be helpful? Also is, and I don't know how to do this, change this from using the old Xcode groups to being folder based. Now that we're in Xcode 16, and I don't know how to do that. How do you say I want to switch? Anybody? Anybody? Migrate? Nope. Let's see. Xcode 16, folder versus group. How do you switch? No, nope. No, we can switch it. I know because I'm working my day job right now. They made the switch. Caused a few adjustments. And how do you change it? Come on. Maybe I'll look into this later. I don't want to get lost here because it doesn't really advance anything. It's just making it's better organization for Xcode going forward. All right. But the reason I was asking about that is because it feels like we need a couple of groups, one for UI, one for domain, and one for the composition root or the app. Control click and select convert to folder. Aha, thank you. Let's give it a try. Since everything, I think, is in the same place. I believe the only change will be to the project. Yep. Oh, look at that. It wipes out all the in the project. It basically gets rid of information about each file. Instead, it's like, I'm just going to get it from the file system. Huh. Okay. Okay. Can we do it one step at a time? This is a environment change. Convert to folder production code. Next, convert to folder. Again, if we look at it, it should result in a much smaller project file. Now, which will make it easier. I see why this is so much more important. Working solo doesn't matter so much. Working in a group, this will make a big difference for groups as far as having conflicts in the project file. It's always been a kind of a pain. Okay. Nice. Nice. Okay, so what I want to do is new folder. Let's move stuff a little bit. I want a UI. And the game screen is in there. The inspectable sheet is in there. The testable view is in there. That looks like it. Slightly off topic. What is your opinion on strategy for personal projects? Implement non-testable MVP to explore domain and start incrementally migrating to testable implementation to unblock safe introduction for future features. This is a big question, Eric, and a great one. Especially for a new domain. This is, Kent Beck talks about this. He describes how you want to go with the cheapest feedback possible, and that the goals of feedback are different. Especially when you're just starting, the goal of the feedback is this even viable? That is, and is it even the right thing? You know, and is it solvable? Is it halfway valuable? That's the question you want to write. And so I do think it is valuable to just bang something out and get it in front of somebody to say, is this what you mean? Size of the project. The hard part that I think companies wrestle with is knowing that that code is crap code. It's like a spike solution. The goal of a spike is to answer a question. The spike, it's called a spike because it cuts through all the layers. And in this case, the question is not just technical layers, it's the human layer and the domain feasibility layer. The hard thing that people wrestle with a spike is throwing it away. And I think it's really important to throw it away. Because once you know this is what I want to do, then it's like, okay, then let's build it up carefully. And if you don't throw it away, you're going to basically live with your crap forever. Mudchart calls out the real danger. You're going to live with it. Here's an interesting counterpoint. If it's easier to make it testable, I'd go that way. Most times it is much better to start from scratch using the MVP as a guide of where to go. Yeah. So that's a good, it depends answer. For example, Mastermind. If we didn't know, if we didn't have this, I'm not sure, right? Do you slap it all down? It's so tempting when if you code up a whole thing to say the code is precious and I must not delete it. One of my early mentors taught me that code is a liability and not an asset. Code is a liability, that is a minus, not an asset. The asset is what's in here. And not just in one brain, but collectively across the team. Throw it away. I've also seen, yeah, it's so easy to live with it. On Andy Coder's point, like if you're building up something and it's easier, TDD, remember, it gives you the same result in the same time to ship. If you don't care about bugs, that's a question. Do you care that if there are bugs? If you don't care, then maybe TDD is not worth the time. And that's presuming you're going to throw it away. If you do care, it's like, here's a thing, we're going to build it up. We know we're going to want this piece. We're pretty sure. Then TDD it. Great question. All right, let's get some, let me reorganize. Call out what I'm actually doing. Right, we should see, if I do an add, we should see a bunch of moves. And that's all. Oh, look at that. The project file doesn't change. How interesting. So these things moved around, but the project file is just like, whatever. How nice. Okay, so if we got UI, and we have game domain. I'm not sure. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll just say domain for now. Open to suggestions. And let's move stuff in. Like that. It is good. I've never seen this, and so this is good learning about Xcode changes. Right? Everything should still be happy. Look at that. Now, something else that this might open, and we can try it, is when you have folders, an organization, a structure that I'm used to outside of Xcode. I've seen it now. I thought I was just the oddball when I used to do this in Xcode, but I've seen it in other languages, TypeScript, JavaScript in particular, is to create a tests folder in here. Question is, will that work with Xcode? Are we planning on converting these folders into packages later on? Again, I think, that might be something to play with, even though it's super small. Because it's so small, I don't feel a need to, except maybe to explore and learn. So what I'm wondering is, if we have a folder here in here that's called tests, can we move like this in here, and what happens? Mastermind tests. Yeah. Thank you, Andy Coder. I'm keeping an eye on where it is. If we make a new file, where does it go? And okay, now we have to think about, choose which it goes in. But that might not be a bad thing. I would kind of like to do this. This is here. This is keeping the test code close to the code that it's testing. Let's do it. So if we have game tests, guess tests, secret tests, and secret maker. See, now it's like, where are the tests for these? They're right here. As long as these all have the correct membership, we should be okay. Now I kind of like this. Let's live with it and see what the ups and downs are going to be. And yeah, Andy Coder, I think it would be valuable to... I'm not going to ship this thing. The whole point is to learn. Move domain tests. Next. So if that's the domain, here we got UI. Let's do the same thing here. And look at that. This goes away. These are both have the correct membership. Everything should be fine. All we're left with is domain, UI, and the root. Did that pass? I needed that sound. I live by that sound. Oh, what changed in the project? I guess I got rid of a group. Eric brings up an interesting thing on the topic of using packages. Huh. Hmm. Good questions. And so that would mean having uh, like a domain package that has no UI in it. But great stuff here, guys. Folks. Hello, Tommy. Welcome. Oh, I wanted to see what was changed in, yeah, in the project file. This group goes away. That's fine. So this is move UI tests. Thank you, Mudshark. Let's do that. You can never quite trust it, especially this thing. What's this? Oh, not too worried about that. Good. All right. We have sort of an architecture starting to form, or making it explicit. So all we've done is move things around. There's no changes to the code. It's just organization. So now I think we are ready. Call this done. Yay. Gonna get rid of that. Actually, I'll just mark it as done. This is done. Now, let's calculate the feedback. Oh, and I don't want to make notes as we go. Convert to folder is one thing we've done. We've had some good discussions about when not to. Packages. I'm just noting these down. We'll see. All right, calculate feedback. Let's do it. Let's create a new file. There's no reason these tests have to be XC test, is there? Let's lean in harder. This is going to be feedback tests. Yep. And let's think about it. Sorry, another topic. Move UI tests. Just remind me that I want to ask about XC UI test. I recently tried it on macOS and it was much quicker than the iOS simulator. I don't know about UI tests on for Mac. Um, I've honestly I've written in my lifetime only maybe 5, less than less than 2 hands of UI tests total. So can't offer much good feedback there. First, find the exact matches, then see how many other choices there are. So there let's think about this. First, I'm gonna get rid of that because it's annoying. What is the test? All matching, partial matching, no matches. Oh yeah. Thank you, Mudshark. That would be why it is so much faster on macOS. So I'm thinking like no matches. Kind of starting from the 0 position. Let's see. Let's see. If we have a code choice, which are our pegs, looks like it's time to create more code choices. Can we do this with 2 colors? Maybe 3. Let me just grab these over. And thankfully, these will only be instantiated one at a time. Let's see. If we have the secret Hmm. If the secret is red and green and I guess blue, 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 what you're seeing fill in here is there is the new, oh, it's too wide to show up. I've been using, you've seen me use GitHub Copilot using somebody's plugin, which was a lifesaver, Copilot for Xcode. GitHub has now come out with their official pre-release of their Xcode plugin for Copilot. And that's what I'm using. I am not using Apple's completion yet because I am still on Sonoma. And I feel no need to move. Feedback. So that's if the secret is red, green, guess how does this look? This looks like a decent test. And it is, I'm following Llewellyn Falco's example. What he teaches is if you stuck if you're getting confused about what to code, and even maybe if you're not confused, it's helpful to write it out, write your test out in comments, and then turn that into code. So let's do it. Yeah, like that. Raise. OpenAI released a beta feature for Xcode terminal, etc. in there with ChatGPT. Interesting. By the way, I've been having a lot of fun using Claude AI from Cursor. Claude seems to do a better job with code than possibly than Copilot. Only need 2 counters. Oh, you mean like the feedback could be yes, making it less domainy, or more domainy and less UI. Because the reason I thought about empty empty was to represent this, but that's not necessary, is it? Thank you, Mud Shark, for keeping me honest. The feedback could be what's it called? Correct in both color and position. Right color. Incorrect position. Belongs in the solution, but is incorrectly positioned. So it's like, what do we want? Correct color in, oh. There we go. Of course, the only reason I think that AI is doing a good job with these comments is because there's lots of mastermind examples out there. If once you get off the road into something else, we'll see. You know, maybe the AIs wouldn't do as good a job. All right, let's start converting this, and let's do it from the assertion. So what do I want? I want expect and I'm just going to get real wordy. We can improve naming as we go. How's that? I think that does a decent job of expressing the assertion, don't you? Starting from the assertion, moving backwards gives us a better, shapes tests better, and it's something I wish I'd learned sooner. So, given that, we now set up colors. Oh, thank you. No, you though. I know. American English is the only one because it's like we don't need all those letters. Let's just get rid of some. Thank you. That's an excellent reason. Um, yeah, it's traditional English versus simplified English. Um, one of the things we want to do when we're focusing on assertions first is uh, like that, looking at like, isn't it colors plural? Perhaps feedback could named somehow with correct colors. How about correct colors feedback? Hmm. How's that? Correct position, wrong position. Is correct and wrong? I suppose right doesn't work because it's like left. Left, right. Correct and wrong is unambiguous. All right, let's go with this. We can always rename things as we go. So next, working backwards, it would be wow, why the heck is it like try await? Just give me the feedback. From the secret and the guess. Secret and guess are two different types, yes? Oh, I'm looking in the wrong place. Yeah, secret and guess. Since they're different types, I feel no need to have argument names. So that looks good. And then all that's missing is to set up, this would be let secret equals secret of, will that work? Yes. It seems to be figuring things out for me. Pretty good. How is that? That's looking pretty good. If I now get rid of the comments, does this make sense? I think it does. So now the thing we want to do is make feedback. Hey, it figured out the correct target. This was one of my worries, was will it get confused? Will Xcode get confused about I'm putting a file in the production code versus the test code, and it seems to be figuring out the default correctly. That's very good. The first thing I do is blow away all this crap. Honestly, the team I'm with loves these, and I don't. That's what version control is for, just like the song. There's a song, right? So now we frame it. That will give us some feedback. A secret and a guess. Does making the feedback compute it? It seems so. It's not a lengthy computation, so I'm okay with that. Normally, I try to avoid doing work in an initializer. Hmm. Do you need colors in the property names? It is colors already. Hmm. Like that. Thank you. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Let's set this up and we'll figure it out. That should get that to compile. Come on. And the struct itself has I don't know. What did I miss? Should we pass only the secret to the initializer and have a separate function to compute the guess? Oh, there we go. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay. You go on hold for a second. Let's figure this out. Our structure is not right yet. So that's a great, great point. Essentially, if we have so it's not quite feedback. Then that's it's a feedback evaluator. So this is an evaluator. Hmm. this is good. This is design. Uh, is it like that? What feels right? Let's see what you guys have said. You folks have said. Feels like this ought to be its own thing, though. Right? I like this idea that if the number in the correct position is the number of the size of the secret, then you've won. Ooh, the play history. Hmm. Huh. This is interesting. This is a lot more involved than we'd ever have time for in my TDD workshops. And that's the fun of doing it on our own, is we can just spill over into next week. And yes, there will be a next week. Let's see. Evaluator. I see. So you're saying if the evaluator, I'm feeling like we could have play history, but we don't need play history. So let's not keep it at this point in time. You know, in a event sourcing model, maybe, and maybe event sourcing is something I ought to think about and try. And again, that's coming back to Andy Coder's point that the whole point of this is to learn and try things. The game, so what is the game? Yes, we will need it for redrawing the view. The game right now has a single guess because there's only one round. So it can have all the guesses and the evaluation of that guess. Yeah. If we have an evaluator that takes a guess, it'll make another thing called feedback, whatever that is. Okay. I think let's back up here. Let's deal with, actually, let me make it explicit types here. Sometimes explicit types are really handy. Where did we... Yes. As usual, you're thinking ahead, and that's fine. What do you think of this? If there's a feedback type that it's just a structure, so all it is is a data bag. Maybe it doesn't have, maybe it doesn't have anything, and maybe it holds on to the guess. But for now, we can say the feedback. Let's do this. Let's try again. New file. I miss. Not going to say it. Okay, I will say it. I fired up app code for the first time in months. the other day because I wanted to extract a closure. I thought Appcode can do that for me. Even if I'm keeping an old version of Xcode around so that it can work. How'd we do? I went an hour and 10 minutes before mentioning Appcode. We ought to have I ought to make a special badge for this, shouldn't I? So that y'all can make fun of me. I fired up Appcode and it didn't know what to do. Like I had just selected something. I knew in the past it would have had no problems saying, select this. I want to extract it as a closure to make it into something injectable. And it said, I don't know what to do. And I thought, Appcode is unfortunately dead to me. But I thought about it because when making the this feedback, what I want to say is right here, make this, and I want it to be a struct. Let's get a couple of these in here. Actually, it'll probably figure it out. Yep. Nope. It didn't. That should do it, right? Let's rebuild the tests and see, cannot convert type int to expected argument type comment? Are you high? I'm mourning, Garbob. I thought I was over it, but grief comes in various stages. Don't even talk to me about the election in the United States. I'm going to try to keep this, but I got to get real sometimes. This is my channel. And I don't want to go off. Mainly, I just don't want to. I need some distance. Why the heck is it? Oh, I wrote this wrong. I wrote it wrong. Woo, newbie mistake. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so next, the feedback evaluator. Let's make that. Let's get rid of all that crap. Is there a way you could do this in Appcode? I had a template set up in Appcode for what I want new files to be. Okay, I'm just getting pissy now. I don't know if you can change it though, because it's inside of Xcode itself. Let's give it a secret. And it's funny that it's not complaining about that. Let's give it a rebuild. Carbob. There we go. That's the next thing. So we are still doing framing based on our re-evaluation of what this should look like. Here we go. Given a guess. It's pretty nice. That is more like I'm used to. Gotta say. I'll take it. And let's return something that fails. Woo! We should have 1 is not equal to 0, except it looks different now. I've noticed that with XCTest, when I use multiple assertions, I tend to add a message or a comment so that it would be like something like, oops, like this. This one is in the correct position. This was in the wrong position. And this is helpful in XCTest so that when you have multiple assertions inside of a single test, all checking the same idea. Oh, you have one? I thought you were saying, sorry, Garbob, I thought you said that's an idea. I didn't, oh, shoot. I'm going to look at this later. Thank you. I'm going to check it out. So with XCTest, I would do this so that when there's a failure, it's very clear from the message which assertion failed, because otherwise you end up with 1 is not equal to 0. It's like, what is that? However, in Swift testing, it's not really necessary because the macro already shows us what it's testing for. So this no longer adds value. This is an advantage Swift testing. Because it shows incorrect position. Basically, I want that should be 1, but it was equal to 0, is how to read that. So now let's do the simplest thing. And that'll pass. Fascinating. Let's get this in. And I thought we would, in this round, do up the entire feedback thing, but we've had a lot of good discussions. Let me take a look at the test again. Well, we'll just grab the name. This is the beginnings of a small feature. Thank you, Eric. Love it, though. I mean, what's the point unless we can yak together and have fun? Okay. Anything to refactor in here? No. It's just a data bag. Hopefully it stays that way. We'll see. Anything to refactor in here? Too soon? Super early? Anything to refactor in here? Yes. I want to, this is not doing much. I want to inline it. And this is messy. This creation of the guess, it doesn't really, it's like, it's too fiddly. Let's make a helper. I would like that to be make guess with from has a bunch of there we go. Look at it, fill it in. It falls down there. What we want is so for choice in choices. I must be missing a closing something. But I don't see it. Problem. Oh, private func. Geesh. There we go. This is building something that uses a loop. There's a little bit of that's much shark. You're like, no. Make it look like secret. Like that. Is that what you mean? That's pretty good. Let's move forward and we can figure it out. So this can now be okay. Just checking. Right, so now this should make guess. Some people would make this an extension on guess that lives only in test code. And I feel weird about that. Extensions in general, I feel like, is it part of the thing? Maybe it's okay. But I feel like it fools you into yes, we did. Thank you. It fools me into thinking it's part of the domain when it's not. Especially with tests as examples, right? Yeah. Okay. So, can I just inline this now? And now we're set up. Oh, now we don't need this explicit type. The power of refactoring. Even on the first test, which is surprising. Usually in the first round, it's like, nothing much to clean up. But in this case, it really helps to get this down into an expressive form. It'll make writing the other tests so much easier, right? It's a kind of a choice. Do you increase duplication and then solve it? But the we're following sort of what feels good. We're following the comments that I blew away. This is much closer to that. This is good. This is test refactoring. And that is time. What else? We're still working on calculate. Quick retro. It might be interesting to create this into packages. I think it would be helpful, basically to pretend that this is a larger project in order to feel out the ups and downs of having test code, like, you know, maybe it'll come out different. It very much will move the tests into the right place. It just lives in a different thing. We'll figure that out. Any other thoughts? We really focused on sort of, you kept me from moving too quickly. Don't be too quick. That's one thing we did. The other thing I did was write test as comments first. I think that's a really helpful technique. You slowed me down. Also, don't be too quick applies to the refactoring that we just did to really make it good. So this was a discussion. All right. Right on time. I think that is a wrap. Oh, I forgot to say at the beginning for folks who are watching, but now I'll say, hey, folks who are watching on YouTube, welcome. Do give us a like. You've watched this far. And, you know, subscribe to my channel so that you get more of these as they come. But I'm always glad to have the folks here on Twitch participating. You make it so much better. It's much, much better than me on my own, making up my own. Well, I do make up my own mind. I have Munchak saying, do this. And I'm like, no, not yet. But I love all the input and the questions, the discussions. That's what this is all about. It's a good time. So thank you so much. I'll see you. I will next week, and then I'll probably, no, after that, I have to look at the calendar. Next week is still good. All right. Take care. Be kind. Folks, yeah, next week is Thanksgiving, but family's just going to come and leave. So Sunday should be clear. U.S. Thanksgiving. For folks in the U.S., I don't know what to say. Even for folks around the world, I don't know what to say about the United States. I really don't. I think I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about choosing to elect a convicted felon over choosing a prosecutor. We got to live. We got to move on. We got to help each other. We also have to live together, all of us. So let's do that. All right, there it is. If you want, this is not the Drunk Theology channel. If you want that, I'll start a separate Twitch. but that would involve me having some booze. Take care, folks. If you want to talk about theology or politics, do it offline. All right? Be good.